hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Cole Maddox stood at the edge of his backyard, arms crossed over his chest, as he surveyed the chaos of primary colors, balloons, and sugar-amped second graders. The late afternoon sun cast long strips of light through the maple trees, warming patches of grass where kids chased each other in dizzying circles. His gaze drifted to the head of the picnic table where his daughter Mara sat quietly, her small hands folded in her lap, watching the commotion with solemn eyes. 7 years old today. Hard to believe. Cole shifted his weight, uncomfortable in the pressed button-down shirt Lena had insisted he wear. She'd been particular about everything for this party: the decorations, the cake, the guests, the timeline. Everything had to look perfect. That was Lena's specialty, appearances. "Cole, get over here and help me with these snacks." Lena's voice cut through the backyard noise, bright and sharp. His wife bustled around the food table, rearranging platters and cups with practiced precision. T35? Lena still turned heads. Today she wore a sundress that flattered her figure, her honey blonde hair swept into a messy but intentional updo. She flashed a smile at Mrs. Winters from down the street, then Mrs. Peterson from Mara's classroom. Cole watched her work the crowd, her laugh a little too loud, her gestures a little too expansive. He pushed himself away from the fence post and crossed the yard. "Everyone having fun?" he asked, picking up a stack of napkins. Lena barely glanced at him. "Of course they are. This is going to be the party everyone talks about." She lowered her voice. "The Hendersons thought they did something special with that bouncy house last month. Wait until they see what's coming." Cole placed the napkins beside the plates. "Mara seems quiet." "She's fine," Lena said, waving away his concern. "Just being shy. She'll perk up when we bring out the cake." She checked her watch. "Speaking of which, Mom, is the cake ready?" Ruthie Langford emerged from the kitchen door, carrying an elaborately decorated two-tier cake festooned with pink and purple flowers. At 63, Lena's mother moved with the confidence of someone used to commanding attention. Her silvery blonde hair was cut in an expensive bob, her makeup immaculate even in the summer heat. "Here comes the showstopper," Ruthie announced, presenting the cake like a trophy. Everyone gathered around. Cole watched as the parents nudged their children toward the table. Mara remained seated, her small face solemn, eyes darting to him. He gave her a reassuring nod. "It's party time." Lena clapped her hands, directing traffic like a runway controller. Birthday girl in position, everyone ready. Cole moved closer to Mara as Ruthie placed the cake in front of her. The candles flickered in the light breeze. "Big smile, sweetie," Lena said through her teeth, her own smile fixed and bright. The crowd began to sing "Happy Birthday," a scattered, off-key chorus. Mara sat up straight, her eyes now focused on the cake. Cole noticed something odd in her expression, not excitement, but determination. As the song ended, Lena stepped forward. "Make a wish, honey." Mara didn't move. "Go on," Lena urged, her voice taking on an edge. "Blow out your candles." Mara looked up at her mother, then at Cole. "I already made my wish," she said quietly. Before anyone could respond, Lena grabbed the cake with both hands. "Well, you know what happens next." With a theatrical flourish, she smashed the cake into Mara's face. The crowd erupted in laughter. Ruthie's cackle rose above the rest. "That's tradition." Cole stepped forward, alarmed, but stopped when he saw Mara's reaction. His daughter didn't cry or flinch. She sat perfectly still, pink frosting dripping from her nose, clinging to her eyelashes. The laughter gradually died as everyone registered Mara's lack of reaction. She turned to Cole, cake still covering half her face. "Daddy, can I show them the present now?" A hush fell over the gathering. Cole nodded, confused. "What present, sweetheart?" Mara slid off her chair and walked to the side table where gifts were piled. She bypassed the wrapped packages and reached for a plain box Cole hadn't noticed before. Opening it, she pulled out a USB drive. "I need to plug this in," she said, her voice steady. She walked to the outdoor television setup Lena had insisted on for showing party videos. Cole's confusion deepened. He glanced at Lena, whose smile had faltered slightly. "Honey, let's open the presents first," Lena suggested, her voice strained. The cake is. This is important, Mara interrupted, plugging the drive into the television. The screen flickered to life. A folder opened, displaying a series of files. I found these on Mom's computer, Mara said, her voice clear in the sudden silence. When I was looking for pictures for my school project. She clicked on the first file. A series of text messages appeared on screen. Cole read the first few lines and felt his stomach drop. Ansel, miss you already. When can we meet again? Lena. Soon. He's working late Thursday. Come over after 8. More messages followed. Dozens. Hundreds. All between Lena and someone named Ansel. The timestamps span months. The content grew increasingly intimate. Ansel, last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. Lena, me too. I want more. He'll be gone all weekend for that job in Seattle. The guest stood frozen, eyes darting between the screen, Lena, and Cole. Ruthie had gone pale, her hand clutching her necklace. Then came the photos. Lena entering a hotel, leaving with a tall, lanky man with curly hair and glasses. Timestamps. Dates. Times. Cole recognized the man Ansel Bright, the drama teacher from Mara's school. The quirky one Lena volunteered to help with costume design. The one she'd spent countless evening meetings with over the past year. The backyard had gone completely silent except for the occasional gasp from a guest. Cole turned to Lena. Her face had drained of color, eyes wide with panic. Cole, she whispered. I can explain. He held up his hand, silencing her. Then looked at his daughter, still standing by the television, frosting drying on her cheeks. Mara, he said quietly, why don't you go inside and clean up? I'll take care of this. She nodded, relief washing over her small features. She walked him, and he bent down. She whispered in his ear, I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't want any more lies. As Mara walked toward the house, Cole straightened and surveyed the stunned faces of their neighbors and friends. He cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming, he said, his voice steady. The party's over. That night, after the guests had awkwardly departed and Mara had been tucked in a bed, Cole packed a duffel bag with essentials. He worked methodically, selecting items with careful precision: 3 work shirts, jeans, underwear, socks, toiletries. The movements kept his mind occupied, prevented him from thinking too much. Lena hovered in the bedroom doorway, her face streaked with tears, makeup smudged. Please talk to me, she begged. It wasn't what it looked like. Cole zipped the bag shut and lifted it onto his shoulder. He walked past her without making eye contact. Cole, please. She grabbed his arm. It was a mistake. A stupid mistake. I got caught up in what, Lena? His voice came out low and controlled. In lying to me for months? In sneaking around while I worked? In having Ruthie cover for you? He shook off her grip. I'm not interested. He walked down the hallway, pausing at Mara's door. Pushing it open slightly, he saw she was still awake, sitting up in bed with a book. You going somewhere, Daddy? She asked, her voice small. Cole set down his bag and entered her room, sitting on the edge of her bed. Just to the garage apartment for a while. I built it good and solid, remember? It'll be fine, because of what I showed everyone. He took her small hand in his. No, sweetheart, because of what your mom did. Not because you told the truth. She nodded, considering this. Are you mad at me? Never, he said firmly. I'm proud of you for being brave. For standing up for what's right. Mom's crying. People cry when they get caught doing wrong things. Mara digested this, then asked, will you still take me to school? Every day, Cole promised. He kissed her forehead. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's a new day. He retrieved his bag from the hallway and headed downstairs. Lena was waiting at the bottom, arms wrapped around herself. This is insane, she said, her voice cracking. You can't just leave. I'm not leaving, Cole replied. I'm staying in the garage apartment. I'll still be here for Mara. For how long? As long as it takes. For what? To punish me? Her voice rose, taking on a shrill edge that always grated on his nerves. To make me suffer? Cole paused with his hand on the front door. I don't have to make you suffer, Lena. You did that to yourself. He opened the door. Don't follow me. Outside, the night air was cool against his face. He crossed the driveway to the detached garage with the small apartment he'd built above it last year, a project Lena had supported, thinking it would add value to the property. Little did she know it would become his refuge. He climbed the external stairs, and unlocked the door, flipping on the light. The space was simple but functional, a main room with a small kitchenette, a bathroom, and enough space for a bed. He'd installed good insulation, decent fixtures. It would do. Cole set his bag on the floor and sat heavily on the edge of the folding cot. For the first time since the birthday party, he allowed himself to feel the full weight of what had happened. The betrayal burned in his chest, a physical ache that threatened to consume him. He removed his wallet and pulled out the photo he kept there, him, Lena, and Mara at the coast last summer, all smiles and windblown hair. He stared at it for a long moment, then carefully tore it down the middle, separating himself and Mara from Lena. He placed their half back in his wallet and dropped Lena's half into the small trash can. That night, he slept fitfully on the narrow cot, still wearing his clothes. Over the next 2 weeks, Cole established a new routine. He slept in the garage apartment, came to the main house only to make Mara's lunches, take her to school, and spend time with her in the evenings. He ate standing up in the kitchenette, quick meals that required minimal preparation. He worked his construction jobs during the day, focusing on physical labor to quiet his mind that he refused to speak to Lena beyond necessary logistics about Mara's schedule. When she tried to engage him in conversation, he shut down, turning away or leaving the room. Her tears, her pleas, her attempts at explanation, none of it penetrated the wall he'd built. Ruthie called multiple times, leaving increasingly agitated voicemails that Cole deleted without listening to fully. "Cole, this is ridiculous. Grown adults don't behave this way. If you would just talk to Lena, you're making Mara suffer with this childish silent treatment." Each afternoon, Cole picked Mara up from school and brought her to the garage apartment, where they worked on homework or projects together. One day, while helping her with math, an idea struck him. "How would you feel about building something together?" he asked. Mara looked up from her workbook. "Like what?" "A go-kart. A real one that you could drive." Her eyes widened. "For real? With an engine and everything?" Cole nodded. "It's not that complicated. I could teach you how it all works: gears, transmission, steering. Could we paint it purple? Any color you want." He smiled, the first genuine smile in weeks. That weekend, they drove to the hardware store and the local auto parts shop, gathering materials. Cole had saved a small air-cooled engine from an old lawn mower, and they found a sturdy metal frame that could be adapted with some welding. Mara picked out purple paint, insisting on a metallic finish. They set up shop in the corner of the garage, laying out tools and materials in organized rows. Cole showed Mara how to use a wrench, how to measure twice before cutting, how to draft a simple design plan. She absorbed it all with serious concentration, asking smart questions that sometimes surprised him. One evening, as they were working on mounting the engine, Lena appeared at the garage door. "What's all this?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "We're building a go-kart," Mara explained, not looking up from the bolt she was tightening. "Isn't that dangerous?" Lena stepped into the garage, eyeing the tools spread across the workbench. "Not if you know what you're doing," Cole replied, his voice flat. "Mara's a quick learner. I just think we've got it under control." Cole positioned himself between Lena and the workbench. "Was there something you needed?" Lena hesitated, then said, "Dinner's ready. I made lasagna. We already ate." Cole turned back to the engine. "Pizza. Thanks anyway." "Cole, you can't keep avoiding me forever." He looked up, his eyes cold. "Watch me." Lena's face crumpled slightly, but she straightened her shoulders. "At least let Mara come in for dessert. I made her favorite brownies." Mara looked up at her father, questioning. Cole sighed. "Up to you, kiddo. Can I bring one out here for you?" Mara asked him. "Sure." He managed a small smile. "Extra, and nuts if they have them." After Mara left with Lena, Cole sat on a shop stool, staring at the half-assembled go-kart. The familiar smell of oil and metal shavings was comforting, a world he understood and could control. Unlike his marriage, which had apparently been built on sand all along, that he pulled out his phone and scrolled to a number he hadn't called in too long. After a moment's hesitation, he hit dial. "Well, look who remembered he has a phone." Tasha Farrell's voice came through the speaker, a familiar mix of warmth and sarcasm. "Only took what, 3 weeks?" Cole leaned against the workbench. "Been a little busy, so I've heard." There was a pause. "Small town, Cole. Word gets around." He closed his eyes. Of course Tasha would know. Everyone probably knew by now. How bad is it? Depends on who you ask. He could picture her shrug, the way she always did when telling hard truths. Some people think you're being harsh. Others think you're a saint for not burning all of Lena's clothes on the front lawn. And what do you think? I think you're doing what you always do, keeping it all locked inside while you figure out your next move. Another pause. How's Mara handling it? Cole glanced toward the house, where light spilled from the kitchen windows. Better than expected. She's tough. Like her dad. Tasha, he said, changing tack, did you know? The silence that followed told him everything. How long? He asked, his voice tight. Cole, how long? Tasha sighed heavily. Rumors started around Christmas. Nothing concrete, just whispers. You know how people talk. 6 months. While he'd been working overtime on the Miller renovation, staying late to finish before the baby came. While he'd been planning ways to surprise Lena for their anniversary. Why didn't you tell me? He struggled to keep his voice level. Would you have believed me? Without proof. Tasha's tone was gentle but firm. You would have defended her. Then you'd have been angry with me for saying it. She wasn't wrong. His loyalty had always been his strength. And his blindness. Who else knew? Most of the PDA moms suspected. Lena wasn't as careful as she thought. Cole's free hand curled into a fist. And Ruthie? Was she involved? Another telling silence. Tasha, tell me. She covered for them. Tasha admitted reluctantly. Those girls' spa days with Mara? I saw Ruthie and Mara at the mall once, getting ice cream. And I just driven past Bright's condo complex. Guess whose car was parked out front? Cole felt sick. She used Mara as an alibi. I'm sorry, Cole. I should have said something. He swallowed the bile, rising in his throat. Not your fault. What are you going to do now? Cole looked at the go-kart frame, at the careful measurements Mara had helped him mark. First, I'm going to finish building this go-kart with my daughter. And then, a coldness settled in his chest, hardening into resolve. And then I'm going to make sure Lena and Ruthie understand exactly what they've broken. The next morning, Cole called his job site and told them he needed personal time, something he'd never done in the 7 years he'd worked for Patterson Construction. Then he packed a small bag, left a note for Mara explaining he'd be back in 2 days, and drove to his brother's place in Montana. It had been years since he'd seen Deacon. They'd fallen out after their father's funeral, a disagreement about the old man's meager estate that had escalated into old resentments and unhealed wounds. Now, as Cole's truck wound up the mountain roads toward Deacon's cabin, he wondered if he was making a mistake. The cabin came into view as he rounded the final bend, a sturdy log structure set against the backdrop of pines, smoke curling from the chimney despite the summer heat. A dog barked as Cole pulled up, a shaggy mutt that eyed him suspiciously from the porch. Before Cole could knock, the door swung open. Deacon Maddox stood in the doorway, more grizzled than Cole remembered, his dark beard now flecked with gray. At 42, he looked older, weathered by mountain living and solitude. Took you long enough, Deacon said, no surprise in his voice. Figured you'd be up here 3 days ago. Cole raised an eyebrow. You knew I was coming? Tasha called. Deacon stepped back from the door. Said you might need a place to clear your head. He gestured inside. Well, come on then. I'm not heating the whole mountain. The cabin interior was sparse, but comfortable, a main room with a fireplace, basic kitchen, a couple of doors leading to what Cole assumed were bedrooms. Rifles hung on the wall, well maintained. A stack of firewood stood by the hearth, alongside a worn leather armchair. Deacon moved to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. Sit. Cole dropped his bag and took a seat in one of the wooden chairs at the small table. His brother poured 2 healthy measures of amber liquid and sat across from him. So, Deacon said, pushing one glass toward Cole. Your wife's been screwing the drama teacher. Cole's jaw tightened. That about sums it up. And your girl caught them? Not exactly. Found messages. Photos. Put it all together and decided to go public at her birthday party. Deacon's eyebrows rose. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. They drank in silence for a moment. You here for advice? Deacon finally asked. Because I'm not exactly an expert on marriage. Cole stared into his glass. I don't know why I'm here. Just knew I couldn't keep sitting in that garage, watching Lena through the windows, pretending life's going to go back to normal. It won't. I know that. Deacon leaned back in his chair. What do you want, little brother? Revenge? Forgiveness? Divorce? Or just to hide out in my cabin until it all blows over? Cole looked up, meeting his brother's steady gaze. What would you do? Deacon snorted. Burn it all down, probably. But I've always been the hothead. You're the steady one. He took another drink. But steady doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. I'm not. Didn't say you were. But I know you, Cole. You'll sacrifice your own happiness to keep the peace. To do the right thing. Deacon refilled their glasses. Question is, what's the right thing here? For you. For Mara. Cole thought about it. Really thought, for the first time since the party. I want Mara with me. Full custody. Deacon nodded. That's a start. And I want Lena to understand what she's done. Not just to me, but to our family. I want her to feel it. Now we're getting somewhere. Deacon leaned forward. You want revenge? Make sure it don't eat you. Or Mara. The kid matters more than pride. He fixed Cole with a hard stare. But if you do it clean. Meaning no half measures. No emotional outbursts that make you look unstable. No violence. No threats. Deacon tapped the table for emphasis. You want to win? Be colder than ice and twice as hard. They stayed up late, talking strategy over the bottle of whiskey. Cole told Deacon everything about the affair, about Ruthie's involvement, about the Cold War now playing out in his home. Deacon listened, occasionally asking sharp questions that cut to the heart of the matter. By the time they turned in Cole on the couch, Deacon in his bedroom, a plan had begun to take shape in Cole's mind. Not just reaction, but action. Not just survival, but victory. The next morning, over strong coffee and eggs, Deacon handed Cole a business card. Friend of mine, he explained. Best divorce lawyer in 3 states. Specializes in father's rights. Don't do anything until you talk to him. Cole pocketed the card. Thanks. Deacon nodded, then added one thing, Cole. When this is over, win or lose, don't be a stranger. Life's too short for that crap. As Cole drove back to Oregon, he felt a clarity he hadn't experienced since before the birthday party. The mountain air had cleared his head, and Deacon's blunt advice had sharpened his resolve that it was time to stop reacting and start acting. The temporary hearing was set for a Tuesday morning in late July. Cole dressed carefully in the nicest clothes he owned, dark slacks, a blue button-down shirt, polished shoes that pinched his toes. He'd had his hair trimmed, his beard neatly groomed. First impressions mattered. His lawyer had emphasized. The lawyer, Raymond Keller, was exactly as Deacon had described, sharp, no nonsense, with a reputation for winning custody cases for fathers. They met in the hallway outside the courtroom, reviewing strategy one final time. Remember, Keller said, straightening Cole's tie slightly, let me do the talking unless directly addressed by the judge. Keep your emotions under control. No matter what Lena or her counsel says, maintain your composure. Cole nodded. I understand. Good. Now, I've reviewed all the evidence you provided. The text messages, the photos, the timeline. It's damning, but it's not a slam dunk. Judge Carroll is fair, but traditional. She'll be looking for stability, consistency, proof that you're the better custodial parent. That's why we have Tasha testifying. Exactly. Character witnesses can make all the difference. Keller checked his watch. It's time. You ready? Cole took a deep breath. As I'll ever be. They entered the courtroom to find Lena already seated with her attorney, an elegant woman in an expensive suit. Ruthie sat directly behind them, back straight, jaw set. She caught Cole's eye and gave him a look of pure contempt. The preliminaries passed in a blur of legal terminology and procedural matters. Cole focused on keeping his breathing steady, his expression neutral. When Lena was called to testify, he forced himself to look at her for the first time in weeks. She was beautifully dressed in a modest navy dress, her hair styled simply, makeup understated. The perfect image of a devoted mother and wronged wife. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue as she described her momentary lapse in judgment, with Ansel, her deep regret, her commitment to reconciliation for the sake of their daughter. And how would you describe Mr. Maddox's behavior since discovering your indiscretion? Lena's attorney asked. Honestly, I'm worried about him. Lena's voice wavered convincingly. He's always been quiet, reserved. But now he's withdrawn completely. He won't speak to me, won't come into the house except to see Mara. He sleeps in the garage apartment, keeps Mara out there with him for hours working on dangerous projects. She looked toward the judge. I'm concerned about his emotional stability, about the environment he's creating for our daughter. Cole felt a surge of anger, but kept his face impassive, just as Keller had instructed. And these dangerous projects, what exactly are they? Lena's attorney prompted. He's building some kind of racing vehicle. A go-kart with an actual engine. Mara's only 7. She could be seriously injured. Lena's eyes welled with tears. He won't listen to reason. It's like he's punishing me by putting our daughter at risk. When it was Keller's turn to cross-examine, he approached Lena with a deceptively friendly smile. Mrs. Maddox, you mentioned your momentary lapse in judgment. Could you clarify for the court how long this momentary lapse lasted? Lena shifted uncomfortably. It was a brief relationship. Define brief, please. A few weeks, maybe. Keller picked up a folder. Your Honor, I have here phone records and text messages spanning 7 months. Would you like me to read some of them aloud to refresh Mrs. Maddox's memory? Lena paled. That won't be necessary. I thought not. Keller placed the folder on the table. Mrs. Maddox, you expressed concern about your husband working on a go-kart with your daughter. Are you aware that Mr. Maddox is a certified mechanic with extensive training in vehicle safety? Well, yes, but... And are you aware that building projects like this are commonly recommended by child psychologists as bonding activities between fathers and daughters? I wouldn't know about that, just as you wouldn't know about Mr. Bright's abrupt departure from Westlake Elementary. Keller asked innocently that Lena's attorney stood. Objection. Relevance. I'm establishing a pattern of dishonesty that bears directly on the witness's credibility, Keller countered smoothly. I'll allow it, the judge ruled. The witness will answer. Lena swallowed visibly. I heard he took a sabbatical. Interesting. Keller pulled out another document. Because I have here a copy of Mr. Bright's resignation letter, submitted the day after your daughter's birthday party. Coincidence? I wouldn't know, Lena repeated stiffly. When it was Cole's turn to testify, he spoke simply and directly, answering questions without embellishment. Yes, he had moved to the garage apartment. Yes, he was building a go-kart with Mara. No, he had not prevented Lena from seeing their daughter. No, he had not denigrated Lena to Mara or anyone else. Yes, he believed he could provide a stable, loving home as Mara's primary custodian. Mr. Maddox, the judge asked directly, what is your primary concern regarding your wife having custody of your daughter? Cole considered his answer carefully. Your Honor, my concern isn't that Lena doesn't love Mara. She does in her way. My concern is that Lena's priorities have consistently been elsewhere: her social standing, her personal desires, her relationship with Mr. Bright. When given the choice between Mara's well-being and her own wants, Lena has repeatedly chosen herself. And you believe you're different in that regard. I know I am, Cole said simply. Mara comes first. Always has, always will. Tasha's testimony came next, and she was every bit the professional Cole had hoped. Calm, articulate, with the credibility of her background in social work and education. She recounted the Harvest Festival incident in detail, described Lena's wine-fueled complaints, and offered her assessment of both parents based on years of observation. In my professional opinion, she concluded, Mara shows all the signs of a child who feels secure with her father and anxious with her mother. She seeks Mr. Maddox out for comfort, guidance, and stability. With Mrs. Maddox, Mara often seems to be walking on eggshells, trying to meet expectations rather than simply being a child. As the hearing concluded, the judge announced she would issue a temporary ruling by the end of the week. Cole left the courtroom feeling cautiously optimistic, only to find Ruthie waiting for him in the hallway. She stepped directly into his path, her eyes blazing. You think you've won, don't you? She hissed, keeping her voice low. Playing the wronged husband, the devoted father. It's disgusting. Cole started to move past her, but she grabbed his arm. This isn't over, she continued. Lena made a mistake, yes, but you're deliberately destroying her. I won't let you take my granddaughter away from her mother. Like you took Mara away from her father to facilitate Lena's affair? Cole replied coldly, removing her hand from his arm. You've done enough damage, Ruthie. Step back before you make things worse. 3 days later, Cole received the judge's ruling. Temporary primary physical custody granted to him, with Lena allowed weekend visitation. The garage apartment was deemed a suitable living arrangement for Cole and Mara, provided certain safety improvements were made. A final hearing would be scheduled in 6 months to determine permanent custody. That IT wasn't a complete victory, but it was a start, a foundation to build on, like the go-kart frame taking shape in his garage piece by piece, bolt by bolt, with patience and precision. I need your help with something, Cole told Tasha one evening, after Mara had gone to bed. They sat on the small deck outside the garage apartment, nursing beers in the warm summer air. That sounds ominous, Tasha replied, eyeing him over the bottle. What kind of something? The kind that might be a bad idea, or a genius move. I haven't decided. Cole explained his plan, using a former Army buddy who now worked at the local newspaper to run a story about the affair and its dramatic revelation at Mara's birthday party. Not mentioning Mara by name, but detailing how a young child had exposed her mother's infidelity during her own celebration. Tasha whistled low. That's cold, Cole. Public humiliation. It's the truth, he countered. Nothing in the article would be fabricated. But why? The judge already ruled in your favor for temporary custody. Why risk looking vindictive? Cole set his beer down. Because the story's going to get out anyway. This way it's controlled. And he hesitated. And I want Lena and Ruthie to understand what they've done. Really understand it. Tasha studied him for a long moment. Is this about justice or vengeance? Maybe both. Cole met her gaze unflinchingly. Lena didn't just betray me. She betrayed Mara. She put her own desires above our family, above our daughter's well-being. And Ruthie helped her do it. He shook his head. Actions have consequences. And what about the consequences for Mara? Having this splashed across the local paper? That's why I'm asking for your opinion. Is it worth it? Or does it do more harm than good? Tasha took another sip of beer, considering. If you do this, make sure Mara's protected. No names, no identifiable details. And talk to her first, she deserves to know what's coming. Cole nodded slowly. Fair enough. The next day, Cole visited his old Army buddy Jake Hollister at the newspaper office. Jake had transitioned from military service to journalism with the same sharp eye for detail and unflinching approach to hard truths that had made him a good soldier. This is quite a story, Jake said, reviewing Cole's notes. Small town scandal, dramatic public revelation, cover-ups. It's at everything except sex tapes, thank God. So you'll run it. Jake leaned back in his chair. Why do you want this published, Cole? Really? Because it's news. Bullshit. It's revenge. Jake's expression wasn't judgmental, just direct. Which I get, believe me. But I need to know your angle here. Cole considered lying, then decided against it. Jake deserved better. It's partly revenge, he admitted. But it's also about bringing things into the light. Lena and her mother have operated in shadows, manipulating perceptions, controlling the narrative. This changes that. Jake nodded slowly. All right, I'll write it up. Keep it factual. No names for the kid, just ages and general circumstances. It'll run in the weekend edition. He fixed Cole with a serious look. You ready for the fallout? Because there will be fallout. I can handle it. What Cole wasn't fully prepared for was the story's reach. Jake's article, Mom Ruins Daughter's Party with Cake Stunt, Child Outs Affair Mid-Celebration, didn't just run in the local paper. It was picked up by regional news sites, then shared across social media, becoming a minor viral sensation. The details were carefully anonymized, but anyone in town with half a brain could figure out who the story involved. The consequences were swift and severe. Ruthie was asked to resign from the PDA board, a position she'd held for years. Lena lost her job at Blue Sky Events, a company that specialized in children's parties. Ansel Bright, already on sabbatical, submitted his formal resignation from the school district, and the whispers followed Cole everywhere at the hardware store, at Mara's school events, at the coffee shop. Some people avoided eye contact, embarrassed. Others offered awkward words of support. A few gave him looks of disapproval, clearly feeling he'd gone too far. Through it all, Cole maintained his composure, neither denying the story nor commenting on it. He focused on his work, on Mara, On the go-kart project that was nearing completion point one evening, about 2 weeks after the article ran, Cole received a call from an unfamiliar number. "Is this Cole Maddox?" A man's voice asked when he answered. "Speaking." "Who's this?" "Ansel Bright." Cole's grip on the phone tightened. "What do you want?" "To apologize." Ansel's voice was strained. "For whatever that's worth." "It's not worth much." "I know." A pause. "I never meant for any of this to happen. Especially not tomorrow." Cole's jaw clenched. "Don't say my daughter's name, right?" "Sorry." Another pause. "I'm leaving town. Got a job offer in Seattle. I just wanted you to know, Lena didn't pursue me. It was mutual. Maybe that doesn't matter to you, but I couldn't let her take all the blame." "How noble of you." Cole's voice dripped with sarcasm. "I deserve that," Ansel acknowledged. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For all of it." Cole was silent for a moment, weighing his response. "Bright, yes. Don't call this number again." He ended the call and sat for a long time on the edge of his cot, phone in hand, thinking about what Ansel had said. Mutual, as if that somehow made it better. Knowing Lena had wanted the affair as much as Ansel had in a way, it did clarify things. This wasn't a case of Lena being led astray, being manipulated or seduced. She had chosen this path, knowingly and willingly, and that cemented Cole's resolve. There would be no reconciliation, no forgiveness, no second chances. Just a clean break and a new beginning for him and for Mara. The go-kart was finished on a Saturday in late August. Cole and Mara had worked on it every evening after dinner and most weekends, fitting the final pieces together with meticulous care. The frame gleamed with purple metallic paint, just as Mara had requested. The engine purred with a smooth, well-tuned sound that made Cole proud. "Can I try it now?" Mara asked, bouncing on her toes with excitement. Cole handed her a small helmet. "Safety first, remember?" She rolled her eyes, but accepted the helmet, adjusting it carefully. "How do I look?" "Like a professional racer," Cole assured her. "Now, remember what we practiced. Gas pedal on the right, brake on the left. Start slow, get a feel for it before you build up speed." Mara nodded solemnly, climbing into the seat. Cole had built it with adjustable components, knowing she would grow. Right now, the pedals were positioned perfectly for her 7-year-old legs, the steering wheel at the right height for her small hands. "Ready?" he asked, squatting beside the go-kart. She gave him a thumbs up, her face serious beneath the helmet visor. "Just around the driveway for now," Cole instructed. "No street driving until we're both confident." Mara pressed the gas pedal gently, and the go-kart lurched forward. She let out a small squeal, then regained her composure, guiding the vehicle in a careful circle around the driveway. Her second lap was smoother, her movements more confident. That be why the fifth lap, she was grinning widely, handling the controls like she'd been born to it. Cole watched with a mixture of pride and that ever-present caution that came with fatherhood, the constant calculation of risks and rewards. "Looking good, kiddo," he called as she completed another LAP.AS. She pulled to a stop beside him. Cole noticed Lena standing at the kitchen window, watching. Their eyes met briefly before she turned away, disappearing into the house. "Dad, this is amazing," Mara exclaimed, removing her helmet. Her face was flushed with excitement, her eyes bright. "Can we enter the derby now?" The annual Youth Derby was a local tradition, held during the town's harvest festival. Kids from 8 to 16 competed in homemade vehicles, racing for trophies and bragging rights. "You're still a bit young," Cole reminded her. "The minimum age is 8. But I'll be 8 in May. The derby's not until October." "Please, Dad." Cole pretended to consider, though he'd already made up his mind. "Well, if we keep practicing, and if you show me you can handle it safely, I suppose we could register." Mara launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to win. I know it." Over the next 2 months, they refined the go-kart, making small adjustments to improve performance and safety. Mara practiced diligently, graduating from driveway circles to the empty church parking lot down the street, where she could safely build speed and practice turns. Cole registered them for the derby, listing himself as the builder and Mara as the driver. When the official acceptance came, Mara pinned it to the wall in the garage apartment, counting down the days. On the morning of the Derby, Cole woke to find Mara already dressed in the racing outfit. They put together purple coveralls to match the go-kart, gloves, and her helmet beside her on the small kitchen table. It's 5:30. Cole yawned, checking his watch. The race doesn't start until 10. I couldn't sleep, Mara admitted. I'm too excited. Cole smiled, ruffling her hair. How about some breakfast for the champion? Pancakes. By 9 o'clock, they had loaded the go-kart on a Cole's truck and arrived at the fairgrounds where the Derby would be held. Other contestants were already there, ranging from Mara's age to teenagers with sophisticated vehicles that pushed the boundaries of the homemade requirement. Yes, they checked in. Cole noticed the looks and whispers that followed them. The newspaper story might have faded from immediate attention, but people still remembered. He kept a hand on Mara's shoulder, guiding her through the crowd. Maddox, over here, a familiar voice called out. Tasha waved from the sidelines, coming to meet them. Got here early to claim good seats. How's our racer feeling? Nervous, Mara admitted. Some of these other go-karts look really fast, but none of them are as well-built as yours, Tasha assured her, kneeling to eye level. Your dad's the best mechanic in 3 counties. 4, Cole corrected with a small smile. But who's counting? The race was organized by age groups, with the youngest competitors going first. Mara's division included 5 other racers, all boys a bit older than her. They sized her up with skepticism as she waited at the starting line, her purple go-kart standing out among their more roughly constructed vehicles. Racers ready, the announcer called. On your mark, get set, go. The go-karts lurched forward, some faster than others. Mara's start was clean, just as they practiced, putting her in 3rd position as they rounded the first turn. Cole watched from the sidelines, his heart in his throat despite knowing how capable she was, how safe they made the vehicle to be by the halfway point. Mara had moved into 2nd place, handling the curves with a precision that drew cheers from the crowd. The boy in 1st place had a slight edge in raw speed, but his turns were sloppy, costing him precious seconds as they approached the final stretch. Mara made her move, accelerating smoothly on the inside of a turn, pulling even with the leader. For a moment they raced side by side, the crowd on its feet. Then Mara's hours of practice paid off. She executed a perfect line through the final curve, gaining just enough advantage to cross the finish line a half second ahead of the boy. The crowd erupted in applause. Cole let out a whoop of triumph, rushing to the finish line where Mara was bringing the go-kart to a controlled stop. Just as they practiced, she climbed out, removing her helmet, her face split by an enormous grin. When she saw Cole, she ran to him, and he lifted her high in the air, spinning her around. You did it, he exclaimed. 1st place. We did it, she corrected, breathless with excitement. Both of us. As the awards were presented, a small trophy and a blue ribbon. Cole stood behind Mara, his hands on her shoulders. The applause washed over them, a public recognition not just of their racing victory, but of their resilience, their bond. From the corner of his eye, Cole spotted Lena and Ruthie standing at the edge of the crowd. Lena wore large sunglasses despite the overcast day, her posture stiff. Ruthie's expression was thunderous, her disapproval radiating across the fairground. Cole met their gaze steadily, offering no acknowledgement beyond the simple fact that he saw them. Then he turned his attention back to Mara, to her moment of triumph, to the future they were building together. It wasn't just about winning a race. It was about showing Mara and everyone else that they weren't victims of circumstance. They were builders, creators, designers of their own path forward, and they were just getting started. The victory at the Derby shifted something in Cole's relationship with the town. The whispers changed in tone, became more admiring than scandalous. People stopped avoiding his eyes and started approaching him, directly complimenting the go-kart, praising Mara's driving, inquiring about his construction business. It was as if the race had transformed their narrative from that family with the cheating scandal to that father-daughter team who built the winning go-kart. Cole welcomed the change, not for his own sake, but for Mara's. The custody arrangement continued as the judge had ordered, weekdays with Cole, weekends with Lena. Mara seemed to have adjusted to the routine, though she often returned from Ruthie's house subdued, needing a day to regain her usual spark. "Grandma talks a lot about you," she confided one Sunday evening after returning from her weekend visit. "Not good things." Cole measured his response carefully. "What kinds of things?" Mara shrugged, picking at her dinner. "She says you're being mean to Mom on purpose, that you're trying to turn me against her. And what do you think about that?" She looked up, her eyes serious. "I think Grandma doesn't know you very well." Cole smiled slightly. "I think you're right." The final custody hearing approached, scheduled for early November. Cole's lawyer assured him that things were looking favorable. The temporary arrangement had gone smoothly. Mara was thriving in school, and Cole had proven himself a capable single parent. Then, 3 weeks before the hearing, Lena showed up at the garage apartment on a Tuesday evening, something she never did. Cole was helping Mara with homework when a knock came. He opened the door to find Lena standing there, looking pale and drawn. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaky. "Alone." Cole glanced back at Mara. "Why don't you finish those last 2 math problems in your room? I won't be long." Once Mara had disappeared into the small bedroom, Cole stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "What is it?" Lena twisted her hands together, avoiding his direct gaze. "I'm pregnant." The words hit Cole like a physical blow. He stared at her, processing. "Pregnant? Yes. And you're telling me because it's yours." Lena finally looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. "It happened that last night before everything. I just found out for sure." Cole studied her face, looking for signs of deception. "That was nearly 4 months ago." "I know how it sounds," Lena said quickly, "but I've had irregular periods since forever. You know that. And with all the stress." She took a shuddering breath. "I wasn't sure at first. I thought it was just stress symptoms. Then I started feeling movement, and I couldn't deny it anymore." Cole's mind raced, calculating timelines. It was possible barely, but the timing was suspiciously convenient, just before the final custody hearing. "I want proof," he said flatly. "What?" "A paternity test. As soon as possible." Lena flinched as if he'd slapped her. "You think I'm lying? You think this is some kind of trick?" "I think the timing is convenient. And I think you and Ruthie are desperate to win custody." "This isn't about custody." Lena's voice rose. "This is about our children. Mara's going to have a sibling. Don't you care about that at all?" Cole crossed his arms. "I care about the truth. If you're really pregnant, and if it's really mine, then we have things to discuss. But I'm not taking your word for it. Not anymore. I can't believe you." Tears spilled down Lena's cheeks. "After 12 years together. After everything we've been through. After you lied to me for months? After you betrayed our family? Yeah, trust is a little hard to come by." Cole shook his head. "Get a paternity test or don't. But don't expect me to make any decisions until there's proof." Lena wiped at her tears angrily. "You've changed, Cole. You used to be kind, understanding. You're right. I have changed." He turned back to the door. "Let me know when you're ready for the test." Inside, he found Mara sitting on her bed, pretending to work on homework, but clearly listening. She looked up as he entered, her expression worried. "Is Mom okay?" She sounded upset. Cole sat beside her, choosing his words with care. "Your mom has some news, but we're still figuring out if it's true or not." "What kind of news?" He hesitated, then decided on honesty. "She says she's going to have a baby." Mara's eyes widened. "A baby? Like my brother or sister?" "Maybe. We don't know for sure yet." "Would we all live together again? If there's a baby?" Cole put his arm around her shoulders. "No, sweetie, that's not how it works. Your mom and I still wouldn't be together. But if there is a baby, and if it's my child, then yes, it would be your brother or sister. And we'd figure out, just like we've figured everything else out." Mara leaned against him. "I don't think I want a brother or sister. I like it just being us." "I know." Cole kissed the top of her head. "Let's not worry about it until we know for sure, okay?" 2 days later, Cole's lawyer called with news. Lena's attorney reached out this morning, Keller reported. They're withdrawing the pregnancy claim. No explanation given. Cole felt a wave of relief, followed by a surge of anger. "So, she was lying." "I can't prove that," Keller cautioned. "But yes, it seems likely. Either she was never pregnant, or it's not yours, or both." Can we use this in the custody hearing? Show the judge she tried to manipulate the proceedings. Absolutely. I'll file a motion this afternoon. This kind of deception speaks directly to the character issues we've been highlighting. After hanging up, Cole sat for a long time at the small table in the garage apartment, staring at nothing. The depths of Lena's deception continued to surprise him, even after everything. To lie about a pregnancy, to use the idea of a child as a manipulation tactic struck him as a new low. That evening, he filed for a restraining order, citing emotional harassment and attempted fraudulent influence of custody proceedings. The judge granted a temporary order to be reviewed at the final hearing. When he told Mara that her mother wouldn't be visiting that weekend, he kept the explanation simple. There are some legal things happening right now. It's just for a little while. She accepted this with a nod, returning to her book without the distress he might have expected. It struck Cole then how much Mara had changed over these past months, becoming more self-contained, more watchful, more mature than any 8-year-old should need to be. He hoped the final hearing would bring closure, would allow them all to move forward without these constant battles. For Mara's sake, if nothing else. The week of the final custody hearing arrived, bringing with it a cold snap that turned November rain to sleet. Cole drove Mara to school each morning in the pre-dawn darkness, the heater in his truck blasting against the chill that on Wednesday. Mara's school was holding its annual fall festival, a showcase of student projects combined with a small carnival to raise funds for the music program. Cole had taken the afternoon off to attend, knowing how proud Mara was of her science presentation on simple machines, inspired by their go-kart project. He arrived early, parking in the crowded lot, and making his way through groups of parents toward the gymnasium where the displays were set up. Inside, Mara spotted him immediately, waving from beside her poster board. "Dad, come see," she called. Cole navigated through the crowd, stopping to admire her display, a detailed diagram of the go-kart's mechanics, with clear explanations of how each component worked. Beside it stood a small working model demonstrating gears and pulleys. "This is impressive," he said, genuinely amazed at the detail sheet included. "Did you do all this yourself?" Mara beamed. "Mrs. Torres helped me with some of the labels, but I did all the diagrams. And look," she pressed a button, and the model whirred to life, gears turning smoothly. "It works just like our real one. Excellent work, Miss Maddox." Mrs. Torres approached, smiling at Cole. Mara has quite a gift for mechanical concepts. She explained everything to the class with remarkable clarity. "She gets that from her father," a cold voice interrupted. Cole turned to find Ruthie standing behind him, arms crossed, her elegant coat and scarf at odds with the utilitarian school gymnasium. He hadn't seen her since the derby, hadn't spoken to her since the confrontation outside the courtroom months ago. "Mrs. Langford," he acknowledged stiffly. "I didn't realize you'd be here. I'm Mara's grandmother. Of course I'm here." Ruthie's smile was brittle as she turned to Mara. "Darling, what a lovely project. Did you want to show me around the rest of the festival?" Mara glanced at Cole, uncertain. "Actually," Cole said, keeping his voice level, "given the current legal situation, I don't think that's appropriate." Ruthie's smile vanished. "The legal situation you manufactured? The restraining order based on lies?" Cole placed a hand gently on Mara's shoulder. "This isn't the place for this discussion." "Oh, when is the place, Cole?" "When you've completely alienated my daughter from her child. When you've turned Mara against her own mother." "Mrs. Langford," Mrs. Torres interjected, stepping forward. "Perhaps this conversation could happen outside? The children are trying to show their projects." Ruthie ignored her, focusing her anger on Cole. "You think you've won, don't you? With your little newspaper articles and your go-kart stunts. Playing the perfect father while destroying Lena's life." Cole kept his voice low and controlled. "Mara, go with Mrs. Torres for a minute, please." Mara hesitated, her eyes wide with worry, but Mrs. Torres gently guided her away. Once they were out of earshot, Cole faced Ruthie directly. "You need to leave. Now, before you make things worse for yourself and for Lena. Don't tell me what to do in my granddaughter's school." Ruthie's voice rose, drawing attention from nearby parents. "You've manipulated this entire situation from the beginning. Poor Cole, the wronged husband. As if Lena was the first spouse to have an affair." The affair was just the start, Cole replied evenly. The lies, the cover-ups, using Mara as an alibi. The fake pregnancy claim those were choices. Bad ones. Fake pregnancy? Ruthie spat. More lies. She lost the baby because of the stress you put her under. There was no baby, Ruthie. We both know that. You drove her to collapse. She's in therapy because of you. Their confrontation had drawn a small crowd now. Cole was aware of phones being raised, videos being recorded. He kept his composure, refusing to match Ruthie's volume or hostility. This is exactly why the restraining order exists, he said quietly. You're creating a scene at a school event, upsetting Mara, spreading false information. False? False. Ruthie's voice reached a near shriek. You destroyed my daughter's marriage, her reputation, her career. You turned her own child against her. You're a monster, Cole Maddox. A vindictive, cold-hearted monster. From the corner of his eye, Cole saw the school principal approaching, his expression grave. Before the man could intervene, Ruthie lunged forward, shoving Cole hard in the chest. He took a step back, but didn't retaliate, keeping his hands at his sides. Mrs. Langford. The principal's voice cut through the commotion. That's enough. I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises immediately. Ruthie turned to him, momentarily stunned by the intervention. Do you know what this man has done? Do you have any idea? What I know, the principal interrupted firmly, is that you've disrupted a school event and physically assaulted a parent. If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll be forced to call the police. The gymnasium had gone quiet, all attention focused on their confrontation. Ruthie looked around, suddenly aware of the spectacle she'd created, of the phones recording every moment. This isn't over, she hissed at Cole. Then, with as much dignity as she could muster, she turned and stalked toward the exit. The principal turned to Cole. Mr. Maddox, I apologize for that disruption. Are you all right? Cole nodded. I'm fine, but I'm worried about Mara. Mrs. Torres took her to the art room. I'll have someone bring her back when things calm down. Thank you. As the crowd dispersed, whispering and casting glances his way, Cole felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find a young teacher he didn't recognize. Mr. Maddox? I recorded the whole thing. She held up her phone. In case you need it. For the court or whatever. That lady was way out of line. Cole hesitated, then gave her his email address. Thank you. It might be helpful. It was as it turned out. Cole's lawyer presented the footage at the final custody hearing 2 days later, along with statement from the principal and several parents who had witnessed Ruthie's outburst. Combined with the evidence of Lena's false pregnancy claim and the timeline of her affair, it painted a damning picture of emotional instability and manipulation. The judge's final ruling was clear. Full legal and physical custody awarded to Cole, with Lena granted supervised visitation until she completed a court-mandated parenting course and psychological evaluation. Ruthie was barred from contact with Mara outside of supervised settings. The IT was a complete victory, beyond what even Cole's lawyer had expected. As they left the courthouse, Keller shook Cole's hand firmly. That video was the nail in the coffin, he said. Couldn't have planned it better. I didn't plan it, Cole replied, watching Lena and Ruthie exit through a side door, both women looking shell-shocked. But I'm not surprised it happened. Ruthie's always thought the rules didn't apply to her family. Well, the judge disagreed. Keller clapped him on the shoulder. Congratulations, Cole. You won. Had he? As Cole drove home to tell Mara the news, he wondered what winning really meant in a situation like this. Mara would have stability, protection, a home free from lies and manipulation. But she'd also lost the unconditional presence of her mother, had witnessed ugliness no child should have to see. Perhaps winning wasn't the right word at all. Perhaps it was simply surviving, with enough strength left to build something new from the wreckage. Winter settled over the town, bringing with it the calm of shortened days and quiet evenings. After the intensity of the custody battle, the stillness was welcome. Cole and Mara established new routines in the garage apartment, which felt less like a temporary refuge and more like home with each passing day. Lena had begun her court-mandated therapy and parenting classes, reporting her progress through formal emails rather than attempting direct conversation. Her supervised visits with Mara were awkward at first, strained by the presence of the court-appointed observer, but gradually found a rhythm of sorts. Cole kept his distance during these exchanges, dropping Mara off and picking her up without engaging Lena beyond necessary logistics. It was easier that way, cleaner. The rage that had fueled him through the custody battle had cooled into something more manageable, not forgiveness, but a kind of detachment that allowed him to function without constant anger. As December turned to January, Cole began thinking about the future in more concrete terms. The garage apartment had served its purpose, but it was too small for the long term. Mara needed her own space, room to grow. "What would you think about moving?" he asked her one evening as they washed dishes together. "Finding a new house, just for us?" Mara considered this, carefully drying a plate. "Would it be far from here? Would I have to change schools?" "Not if you don't want to. We could stay in the same area, just find our own place." "What about Mom? Would she stay in this house?" Cole paused, sudsy hands hovering over the sink. "That would be up to her. The divorce settlement gives her the option to buy out my half of the house or sell it and split the proceeds." Mara nodded, absorbing this. "I think I like a new house," she finally said. "One that's just ours, with a better garage for projects." Cole smiled. "A better garage? Huh? Priorities." In late January, a rare snowstorm blanketed the region, closing schools for 3 days. Cole and Mara built a snowman in the yard, had a spectacular snowball fight with Tasha, and spent evenings playing board games while a space heater hummed in the corner of the apartment. That on the third snow day, as they were finishing lunch, Cole's phone rang. The screen displayed his brother's name, unusual, as Deacon rarely called, preferring terse text messages when communication was necessary. "Everything okay?" Cole answered. "Define okay?" Deacon replied, his voice gruff as ever. "My roof's got about 3 feet of snow on it, and my plow got stuck in a drift yesterday. But I'm alive, if that's what you're asking. Good to know your charming personality hasn't frozen solid." Deacon snorted. "Listen, I was thinking. Spring comes late up here, but when it does, the fishing's good. Real good. Thought maybe you and the kid might want to come up for a week. Get some mountain air." Cole was momentarily speechless. In all the years since their falling out, Deacon had never invited him to visit, let alone suggested an extended stay. "You there?" Deacon prompted. "Yeah, sorry. Just surprised." Cole glanced at Mara, who was watching curiously. "A fishing trip sounds great, actually. Mara's never been fly fishing. High time she learned, then. From someone who knows what they're doing. Meaning you. Who else?" Cole could hear the smirk in Deacon's voice. "Plan for late May. After the snow melts, but before the tourists invade. I'll clear out the spare room." After hanging up, Cole explained the invitation to Mara. "Uncle Deacon wants us to visit? For real?" Her eyes widened. "I thought he was a grumpy hermit who hated people." Cole laughed. "He is mostly, but apparently he makes exceptions for us. Can we go?" "Please." "Absolutely. As soon as school lets out." The winter months passed in a blur of work, school, and ongoing divorce proceedings. By early May, the legal matters were finally settled. The house would be sold, with Cole and Lena splitting the proceeds. Lena had completed her court requirements and was granted standard visitation rights, though Ruthie remained limited to supervised contact. As the date for the Montana trip approached, Cole found himself looking forward to it with an intensity that surprised him. He'd been so focused on survival, on getting through each day, each hearing, each confrontation, that he'd forgotten what it felt like to anticipate something purely positive. They left on a Saturday morning in late May, the truck packed with camping gear, fishing equipment, and enough snacks to sustain Mara through the long drive. As they pulled away from the house, soon to be listed for sale, Cole caught a glimpse of Lena watching from an upstairs window. He didn't wave, but he felt a strange sense of closure, of chapters ending and beginning. Montana welcomed them with wide skies and rugged landscapes that made even Mara, usually chatty, fall silent in appreciation. Deacon's cabin looked much as Cole remembered, though the surrounding trees seemed taller, the wilderness more encroaching. Deacon greeted them on the porch, the same shaggy dog at his side. He'd aged in the months since Cole's last visit, his beard more salt than pepper now, new lines etched around his eyes. But his handshake was firm, his nod of acknowledgement to Mara respectful rather than condescending. "So you're the go-kart racer," he said, eyeing her with approval. "Your dad says you've got good hands. We'll test that theory on a fly rod tomorrow." Mara straightened, rising to the challenge. "I'm a quick learner." "Good. You'll need to be. Fish up here don't give second chances." The cabin spare room was Spartan but comfortable, 2 cots with worn but clean bedding, a small dresser, a window overlooking the pine forest. Deacon had cleared his tools and supplies, making space for their bags. "Not the Ritz," he acknowledged gruffly, "but it keeps the bears out." "Bears?" Mara's eyes widened. "Few grizzlies in these parts," Deacon confirmed, the ghost of a smile playing at his lips. "Nothing to worry about if you're careful. I'll teach you the rules." Over the next few days, they fell into an easy rhythm. Mornings were spent fishing in the clear mountain streams, Deacon proving a surprisingly patient teacher as he showed Mara the art of casting, of reading water, of thinking like a trout. Afternoons involved hiking the surrounding wilderness, gathering firewood, or improving the cabin's modest amenities. Cole found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years, perhaps even before the affair and its aftermath. There was something cleansing about the mountain air, the physical labor, the distance from the complications of his recent life. One evening, after Mara had gone to bed, exhausted from a day of successful fishing, Deacon brought out his good whiskey, a ritual Cole now recognized as his brother's way of signaling a serious conversation. "The kid's doing all right," Deacon observed, pouring 2 fingers into each glass. "Better than all right. She's solid. She is," Cole agreed, accepting the drink. "Stronger than she should have to be. That's the way it goes sometimes. Life doesn't hand out burdens based on fairness." Deacon took a sip, considering his next words. "You're doing good by her, Cole. I see that." Coming from Deacon, this was high praise indeed. Cole nodded his thanks, unsure how to respond to such unexpected approval. "What about you?" Deacon pressed. "You doing all right?" Cole stared into his glass. "Getting there. The divorce is final. Custody's settled. We're selling the house. It's over, I guess. Legally, maybe. But here." Deacon tapped his chest. "That takes longer. You speaking from experience?" "Maybe." Deacon rarely discussed his own past, the relationships that had failed before he retreated to his mountain sanctuary. "All I'm saying is don't rush it. The anger, the hurt, it doesn't just disappear because a judge bangs a gavel. I know that, do you? Because from where I sit, you've been so focused on winning, on protecting Mara, on making Lena pay. I'm not sure you've actually dealt with what happened to you." Cole felt a flash of defensiveness. "I've dealt with it fine." "Yeah? Then why do you still get that look when her name comes up? Like you're swallowing glass? What do you want from me, Deacon? To forgive her? To say it's all water under the bridge now?" Deacon shook his head. "Hell no. I don't care if you forgive her or not. That's your business." He leaned forward, fixing Cole with an intense stare. "What I care about is you letting go enough to actually live again. To be more than just Mara's dad. More than just the guy who got cheated on." Cole was quiet for a long moment, absorbing his brother's words. "I'm working on it," he finally said. "It's not easy. Nothing worth doing ever is." Deacon refilled their glasses. "But you've got a good foundation. Better than most." The days in Montana stretched into a week, each one bringing new experiences. Mara catching her first trout, learning to identify edible plants, helping Deacon repair a section of the cabin roof. Cole found himself laughing more, sleeping better, thinking less about the past and more about possibilities. That on their final evening, as they sat around the campfire Deacon had built, Mara asked the question Cole had been half expecting, half dreading. "Will you ever forgive her?" The firelight danced across her young face, serious beyond her years. In the shadows behind her, Cole could sense Deacon watching, listening. "Your mom," Cole clarified, though he knew exactly who she meant. Mara nodded. Cole took a deep breath, considering his answer carefully. "I forgive myself for letting her stay too long," he said finally. "For not seeing what was happening. For putting up with less than we deserved. That's enough." Mara seemed to weigh this response, poking at the fire with a stick. "I think I'm still mad at her. That's okay. You get to feel how you feel. but I still love her too. Mara's voice was small, almost ashamed. Cole moved to sit beside her on the log, putting his arm around her shoulders. Of course you do. She's your mom. Nothing changes that. Even though she lied, even though she hurt us, even then, love's complicated that way. Cole squeezed her gently. You could be angry at someone and still love them. You could decide not to forgive them and still care. Mara leaned against him, quiet for a moment. Does Mom still love us? I think she loves you very much, Cole said truthfully. In her way, but not you. Cole sighed. I don't think Lena and I have loved each other in the way we should for a long time. Even before everything that happened. We just didn't realize it. From across the fire, Deacon spoke up. Sometimes people love the idea of someone more than the actual person. The image, not the reality. Mara considered this, her brow furrowed in thought. That's sad. It is, Cole agreed. But you know what? It's also an opportunity to find something real, something better. He looked up at the star-filled sky, at the vastness of the wilderness around them, and felt a sense of peace that had eluded him for too long. Not completion, not an ending, but a moment of quiet in the journey, a chance to breathe before the next steps forward up EY midsummer. The changes Cole had been planning began to take shape. The house sold quickly, allowing him to purchase a modest 3-bedroom home on the edge of town. It needed work. The kitchen was outdated, the bathrooms cramped, but it had good bones, a large backyard, and most importantly, a spacious detached garage with high ceilings and plenty of natural light. This, Cole told Mara as they stood in the empty garage on moving day, is where the magic's going to happen. She spun in a slow circle, taking in the potential. It's perfect. Way bigger than the old one. Big enough for more than just go-karts, Cole agreed. I've been thinking, what if we turn part of it into a workshop? Not just for us, but for other kids who want to learn how to build things. Mara's eyes lit up. Like a class. Something like that. Nothing formal at first. Maybe start with some of your friends, teach basic skills. See where it goes. The idea had been percolating since the Derby, when Cole had noticed how many children and parents had approached them, asking questions about the go-kart, admiring the craftsmanship. There was interest there, curiosity, but not many outlets for hands-on learning. Over the next few weeks, as they settled into the new house, Cole began converting the garage, installing proper workbenches, organizing tools, creating areas for different types of projects. Mara helped design a simple logo for what they decided to call the Frosting Line Workshop. Why that name? Tasha asked when she came to see the progress. Seems random. Cole and Mara exchanged knowing looks. Inside joke, Cole explained. Let's just say it's about seeing what's beneath the surface. The real stuff, not just what looks pretty. By the end of August, they were ready for a test run. Mara invited 3 friends from school, and Cole guided them through building simple wooden toolboxes, measuring, cutting, sanding, assembling. The children were awkward at first and used to handling tools, but quickly gained confidence under Cole's patient instruction. This is so cool, one boy exclaimed, examining his completed toolbox with pride. My dad doesn't know how to build stuff. He just buys things. Everyone can learn, Cole told him. It just takes practice and the right guidance. Word spread. Parents began calling, asking if their children could join. Cole established a regular Saturday morning session, charging just enough to cover materials. The garage came alive with the sounds of productive work, the buzz of hand drills, the scratch of sandpaper, the enthusiastic chatter of children discovering the satisfaction of creating something tangible. Tasha helped spread the word through her connections at the school, and soon Cole found himself with a waiting list. He added a weekday afternoon session, then another. Before long, the Frosting Line Workshop had become more than just an after-school activity. It was developing into a small business, a community fixture. One Tuesday in October, nearly a year after the final custody hearing, Cole was supervising a group of middle schoolers constructing model bridges when he heard the garage door open behind him. Turning, he found Lena standing hesitantly in the entrance, looking out of place in her designer jeans and carefully styled hair. Sorry to interrupt, she said, her voice carrying over the children's chatter. I'm early for Mara's pickup. Cole glanced at his watch. By an hour. Traffic was better than I expected. Lena looked around the workshop, taking in the busy scene. This is impressive. Thanks. Cole turned to check on a girl who was struggling with her measuring. Try again, Emma. Remember, measure twice, cut once. Lena remained by the door, watching. After a few minutes, Cole excused himself from the students and approached her. Mara's at Tasha's until 4. She's helping with a science project. Oh. Lena seemed at a loss. I can come back. Or you can wait. There's coffee in the office. Cole gestured to the small room he'd partitioned off at the back of the garage. I'm kind of in the middle of things here. Lena nodded, making her way to the office. Through the window, Cole could see her examining the framed photos on the wall Mara with her derby trophy. The two of them fishing in Montana, a group shot of the first workshop participants with their completed projects. When the session ended and the students had been picked up, Cole found Lena still in the office, leafing through the scrapbook Mara had put together documenting the workshop's evolution. She's very organized, Lena commented as he entered. Gets that from me, I suppose. She gets a lot of things from you. Cole leaned against the doorframe. Her eye for design, her social skills, that scary memory for details. Lena looked up, surprised by what seemed like a compliment. I wasn't sure you still noticed those things. I notice. Cole crossed his arms. I'm not blind to the good stuff, Lena. Never was. An awkward silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken words. This place, Lena finally said, gesturing to encompass the workshop, it's really something. You've built something special here. It's a start. The name, though, a small smile played at her lips. The frosting line. That's pointed. Cole shrugged. It fits. Reminds me to look beneath the surface. To value what's real, not just what looks good. And to remind everyone else of what happened. Lena's voice held a hint of the old defensiveness. No one else gets a reference. Cole held her gaze steadily. It's not about public shaming, Lena. It's about personal reminders. She nodded slowly, accepting this. Fair enough. The door opened, and Mara burst in, backpack swinging. Mom, you're early. Traffic was light, Lena repeated, turning to embrace her daughter. How was school? As Mara launched into a detailed account of her day, Cole stepped back, giving them space. He watched their interaction, Lena's genuine interest, Mara's animation, and felt a complex mix of emotions. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe never, but something like acceptance, like recognition of a new reality they were all navigating. Later, after Lena had left with Mara for their weekend visit, Cole stood in the center of the workshop, surveying what he'd created. Workbenches lined the walls, each equipped with carefully organized tools. Projects in various stages of completion waited for their young builders to return. Plans and diagrams covered a large bulletin board that IT wasn't just a place to build things. It was a place to rebuild lives, confidence, community. Cole picked up a piece of sandpaper, absently smoothing the edge of a wooden birdhouse one of the younger children had been working on. There was something deeply satisfying about the process, taking something rough and making it functional, even beautiful, not by hiding the flaws, but by patiently addressing them, one stroke at a time. Tasha found him there an hour later, still working. Thought you might want company, she said, holding up a six-pack of beer. You've been putting in long hours lately. Thanks. Cole accepted a bottle, taking a long sip. Just finishing up some projects before tomorrow's session. Tasha perched on a workbench, looking around. Full house tomorrow, 12 kids. We're building birdhouses for the elementary school garden. Community service and education. Very noble. She smiled. You know, when you first told me about this idea, I thought it might be therapy for you. A way to process everything that happened. But it's become so much more than that. Cole nodded, moving to adjust a crooked frame on the wall. It started that way. Something to focus on besides anger. Besides the past. He straightened a row of clamps on one of the workbenches. But then I saw how these kids react when they build something with their own hands. The pride in their faces. That moment when they realize they can create, not just consume. You're good at it, Tasha observed. Teaching, I mean. These kids adore you. Cole shrugged off the compliment, though it pleased him. I just give them the tools and show them the basics. They do the real work. Sounds like parenting, Tasha said with a knowing smile. Maybe. Cole leaned against the workbench opposite her. Mara's thriving now, you know. Her teachers say she's more confident, more engaged. She's making friends again. Kids are resilient, especially when they have a solid foundation. Tasha took a sip of her beer. Speaking of which, I ran into Lena at the grocery store yesterday. She mentioned she's selling Ruthie's house. Cole raised an eyebrow. Ruthie finally moving to that retirement community she's been threatening everyone with for years. Actually, she's moving to Arizona. Apparently, there's a gentleman friend involved. Tasha watched Cole's reaction carefully. Lena seems different these days. More grounded, like the old Lena from before. Before what? Before she cheated? Before she lied about being pregnant? Cole's voice held no heat, just a matter-of-fact quality that spoke of old wounds that had scarred over but never fully healed. Before you two got married, honestly, Tasha set her bottle down. Remember how she used to be? Before Ruthie got her hooks in too deep? Before the constant pressure to be perfect? Cole was quiet for a moment, memories surfacing of the Lena he'd first met laughing at his jokes. Dirt on her knees from helping him plant a garden. Genuine in a way she rarely was in later years. That Lena's long gone, he finally said. Even if she wasn't, too much has happened. I'm not suggesting otherwise, Tasha clarified. Just making an observation. People change, sometimes for the better. Sometimes, Cole agreed non-committally. Doesn't mean I have to care. Tasha smiled at his stubbornness. No, it doesn't. But it might make co-parenting a little easier. The conversation shifted to other topics plans for expanding the workshop. A community festival where Cole had been invited to demonstrate basic woodworking, Tasha's new position on the school board. The easy friendship between them flowed naturally, comfortable and uncomplicated. Later, after Tasha had left, Cole locked up the workshop and walked to the main house. It still felt new after 3 months, but it was becoming home a space he and Mara had created together, decorating and arranging to suit their tastes rather than Lena's carefully curated aesthetic. He made himself a simple dinner, ate at the kitchen island while reading a book on advanced woodworking techniques, then settled in the living room with a cup of coffee. The house was quiet without Mara, but it was a peaceful silence rather than a lonely one. His phone buzzed with a text message from her. Good night, Dad. Made cookies with Mom. Saving you some. Love you. He smiled, typing back. Good night, kiddo. Have fun. Love you too. Cole set the phone down and looked around the room at the photos of Mara, at the small wooden sculptures they'd made together, at the books and games, and lived in comfort of it all. Not perfect, not glossy magazine worthy, but real, honest, built on truth rather than appearances. The Frosting Line Workshop had become more than just a name or a place. It had become a philosophy, a way of living, seeing beneath the surface, valuing substance over show, building something solid, something that would last. Standing at the window, looking out at the workshop where the lights still glowed softly, Cole felt something unfamiliar but welcome spreading through his chest. Not happiness exactly, that seemed too simple a word. Satisfaction, perhaps. The knowledge that he had weathered the storm and emerged not just intact, but stronger. Not just surviving, but building, creating, growing. And in that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that they were going to be all right, him and Mara, their reconstructed family, their future together. The frosting had been scraped away, revealing the honest foundation beneath. And on that foundation, they would continue to build one careful, deliberate piece at a time.